Hey, what's happening everybody? It's Tuesday morning and I want to take you all over here by the shed to show you some tools and talk about some tools that I think are useful on the homestead. Here we go. Alright, so before I show you any of these new tools, I just want to point out that this shed was built without any of these tools, and so was that shed, the earth bag, that shed, and my chicken run. None of that required any of these tools. So you don't have to have these tools to survive, folks. I'm just showing you tools that are going to make it easier for you, but like I said, it's not necessary. So we're going to go into the shed here and I wanted to show you guys. So first you're looking at a table saw, a new table saw. I think it's 27-inch rip capacity. Went with the rigid because that's what was available. And I don't personally think there's a huge difference between like bumping up brands to like DeWalt or Milwaukee or Makita especially than staying with this brand, because honestly all the years I've done contract work for hotels, small businesses, residential, I've had DeWalt tools, I've had rigid, I've had Makita, I've had them all down the spectrum, and you know, honestly, for the money differential, I find that these tools are the best bang for the buck. So anyways, yeah, so this table saw here, you know, something that's long overdue out here, but we're getting to the point where we're building a house now, so I needed to kind of upgrade. And then over here we have a Ryobi tabletop or bench top, whatever you want to call it, drill press. And this is a 5-speed drill press, belt driven. They you know, still have the same standard belts that they've had in these things for years. You pop this open here and that's it. It's a real simple mechanism, but man, these things come in handy, I can tell you that. Let's see, so cement mix you've already seen, and let's talk about a miter saw. Now I'm actually quite amazed that I've been building everything out here and I have not used one of these being out here. Just what happened was I just sold all my tools a while back thinking I was done doing this type of work, and then we decided to build a homestead, and so I didn't have any of this stuff for a while. I was doing everything with handheld saws, and you know, I figure, hey, the Amish can do it without any power tools, you know. So not saying it wouldn't have been easier though. So if you want to make your life easier, if I had to choose between a table saw and a miter saw, I would go with the miter saw every time. Honestly, table saws are great, but you can get a lot done with a miter saw, and just use a handheld circular if you can't make the plunge on one of these. So now I'm going to take you outside and talk about these goodies. All right. So you can see here we have a bunch of battery powered tools, and I actually just made the plunge to going battery. Now the story goes, back in the day when I was doing all that work I just discussed, the only battery powered tool that you would ever purchase back then was a drill, or maybe an impact driver, because the batteries just weren't there yet, the tools weren't there yet, they weren't worth it. Okay, so the batteries of course have come a long way since then, and I'm now finally at that point where I said, you know, it's time to upgrade. Because one of the things I'm going to tell you is, when you're out here on a homestead like this, a lot of the jobs that you end up doing are small jobs, they're quick jobs, or they should be quick jobs, and you really just need something to get it done quickly. It sucks when you have to drag a generator over, fire it up, make sure there's gas. Oh, there's no gas, gotta go get gas. Oh shoot, I didn't change the oil, gotta change the oil. You know, all these extra steps that you need just to, you know, do something simple like screw a couple boards on, or make a couple cuts and then screw a board on, something like that, you know. So the battery powered tools were kind of a must at this point. It's a lot of time's going to be saved with these. I can carry everything in a couple duffel bags, so I'm just going to run through them here. Now the story with these is, I would have went all Ryobi, except for Rigid had a closeout deal on a 5-pack special, and I just couldn't pass it up. So they had, you know, I got more battery life out of that package. So anyways, we have of course a Torchlight. You know, first I was like, I don't really need something like this, but man, I can tell you these things are bright, they're awesome. So yeah, nice Torchlight. Got an impact driver, and of course a drill. Now an impact driver, if you don't know the difference between an impact driver and a regular drill, basically with an impact driver, the way they work is they're really good for driving in longer screws, lag bolts, lag nuts, anything that's going to require a lot of torque, because what will happen is once you start driving it in, a lot of times with a regular drill, they either run out of power or you'll start stripping the heads on the screws or the bits. And what these do is they have like, once it starts feeling that tension, it has like almost like a hammering action that it'll shake and vibrate a lot, but basically what it's doing is going and it's just pushing that nail or that screw in very effectively. So these things are great. Of course, you know, you got yourself a regular circular saw, battery powered. That's awesome. So awesome for those small jobs. And then you got these oscillating multi-tools, which are really neat. Man, you use these things for 100 different things. That's what's cool about them. They're multi-tools because, you know, you'll be say you're up somewhere and you cut something and you're like, damn it, man, I got to shave off like a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch. Well, that's where this thing comes in. And you can even play some music with it. Here, listen. So that's how those work. You can get all kinds of different bits for these. Now, next, we'll go over to one of these, I forget what they call these, but these basically, they have little drill bits on the end of them, and they're basically like hole saws, and they're, you know, you can just cut holes into like things like this, wood, drywall. They're really good for drywall. Basically, you can tell I never really used one of these, but they're cool. They're kind of like a mix of a router and a drill. And you can just, you know, you put your bit in here, and then you can just cut whatever you need to cut. So, useful tool. Just haven't used one yet. And then, of course, you got your jigsaw. These things are super awesome to have. Man, I tell you, I've always used jigsaws on the job, and 100 different ways you can use these things, but these are really nice. Got low speeds, got different speed settings on it, so I can go faster, slower. It's an awesome tool. Of course, a sander, portable sander, great to have. And my favorite of all is a battery operated grinder. And man, I can tell you, I've been waiting to get one of these for a long time. I use these so much, especially with welding and stuff, that man, just having these cords everywhere, it really is, it just gets annoying. So this is great. You know, they're not near as powerful as the corded ones, but I can tell you what, for most of the jobs, this thing will work just fine. And then these last two in the back, the story with these is that these were a closeout deal. I would never have bought either one of these. The only thing is that they both came with the batteries, and it ended up being that the closeout price on these was just as the batteries, if to buy the batteries separate, would have cost me more than actually just getting these two things. So we have a speaker right here, which, you know what, I was actually really impressed with this speaker. It's quite loud, and it does last for a while on a 2 amp hour battery, so pretty impressed with this thing. It's really awesome. And then of course a fan. Now what's cool about this fan is that it actually has the ability to just plug in, which is probably what we would do with it anyway. So you can put a battery in it, but even better, you can cord it up and just run it like when it gets hot out. So, and then the last thing here I'm going to talk about is a weed whacker. Now I've actually had this for a while, but you know what, these battery powered weed whackers now they're awesome. And no more gas and dealing with all the mess of that stuff and all the maintenance that goes with it. You know, by the time the battery runs out, like a 4 amp hour battery on this, I'm ready to call it quits anyways. So usually, you know, I can't remember how many minutes we get off of this thing, but it's enough. You know, like I said, it's enough to where when you're done, you're done. So that's a review of some of the tools, folks. Sorry I haven't had videos in a few days. Had some issues with my phone. Actually ended up having to do a factory reset on my phone, so I lost a lot of footage and a couple other things. So that's where I've been, but I hope this helps some of y'all out. And if you're thinking about going cordless and you have the money to do so, I strongly recommend it before you go off grid.